So to start off, I'm going to be doing this white circle base, and it's good to have a reference photo on hand. I have one that I took of my buttons right next to me. And the reason why I like to use a photo and not to draw from life when I'm doing small objects like this is because when I have a reference photo, I can simply zoom in and try to draw all those little details and those slightly variation in color, which will give this depth. And now I'm going in fairly lightly with this brown color pencil so that I can get some of the warmer tones that can be seen in my reference image. And it's really important, if you're trying to get an accurate portrayal of your reference image, to look at the reference image and just try to identify all the different values that you have there. And it can be kind of difficult, but one thing that I really like to do is you can put it into a digital drawing software and use a color dropper, and then you can really get a good idea of what color's there. Now to draw the buttonholes, I wanted to use my black color pencil, but as usual, I misplaced it just when I needed it, so right here I'm just using charcoal, and I'm also mixing some brown and blue, which this is usually what's recommended for painting when you're trying to make black, because a lot of the times it will be a warmer black or a cooler black. So once I was finished with drawing the buttonholes, I decided to move on to highlights because I had already gotten most of the shadows there. And I noticed that in certain parts of the picture, there's some really bright whites, much brighter than the rest of it, and a lot of the times it's kind of hard to do this with just color pencils, which is why I use white gel pens, and white gel pens are kind of a popular option for doing highlights. Now, even though I had gotten most of the shadows, I had noticed that there were some minor little details that I needed to add, so I went with the black hard charcoal and then I rubbed some of the white color pencil over it so that it wouldn't be too dark, because there's nothing completely solid black really in this picture. And now I'm going to start drawing the circle for the next button. And this next button, what I like to do to make sure it's proportioned correctly is try to make sure that either if you have your reference photo printed out, you're drawing at the same size as that, or if you have it on your phone or something, make sure you have it zoomed in to exactly where the other button is that size, and then just try to draw the other button, obviously exactly the size that it is in the picture. Now, for this button, I'm going to be completing a very similar process as I did for the first button, so I won't go too into depth, but basically I just did sort of the same thing, trying to find the right colors and adding all those little details and zooming in on the reference image, just exactly the same thing. So one way that this button varies from the last button is that it has sort of this outer rim around it. So I'm going to draw the circle in black and then blend over in white, which I have been doing quite a bit, but I just wanted to mention this particular aspect of the button is a bit different. Now this button looked really weird until I used the white gel pen and did the highlight, and then it really popped. It looked so much more realistic after I added the highlight compared to how it looked before, and I was really happy with how that came out. So one thing I forgot to mention was the shadow that the button leaves beneath it, and it's slightly to the side. The other one was on top of this button, and I kind of added it without really explaining, but over here, I just sort of used the charcoal and then smudged it with my fingers, even though that is not advised. And I tried to, well, it was sort of the shadow looked kind of like it stopped abruptly, but it needed to look a little bit more natural in my opinion, so I did change that a little bit from how it was in the reference photo, but it pretty much had the same results, so I was pretty happy with it. And now I'm going to be drawing the white circle for the third time and adding all those details, shadows, highlights, etc. So this button had 4 buttonholes, and these buttonholes didn't really have as much depth as the others, where I had to do a really dark ring on the outside, and then it gradually got a little bit lighter. And this one, they were almost pure, like this dark gray color, not exactly black. And then in the middle of this button, there was kind of like this little white dot, and I'm not really sure what it was exactly. It seemed to be some piece of plastic sticking out from one of my buttons. I'm not sure if that was a mistake, or if it was on all the buttons of this size. So this part was a little bit boring because this is the part where I add all the highlights and shadows and all the different colors, which I've already explained in the first part of the video. So I am not going to be covering this section at all, but I just wanted to let you know what happens here, just in case you were wondering. The fourth button in my setup had literally nothing in common with the other three, except maybe that it's a button, because it was a small blue button, no outer rim, completely flat, and I was really happy because I had a color pencil that was like the exact match of that one, of that part of the button. But then for the other part of the button where there was a little bit of shadow, I had to mix two colors, so that was a little bit disappointing, seeing as it was very easy to find the other color. But sometimes that's what you have to do. And I just kind of eyeball it, so I guess this is not really a very good teaching moment because I don't really have much of a process for mixing colors. I just kind of, figure it out, if that makes sense. And then I did the buttonholes with this dark brown color because, like I said, I couldn't find my box, so it was basically just dark brown and charcoal. And then I just went over with the highlights, and there was one more shadow that I have to do, so we'll get to that. So, like I said, there was one more shadow, but I didn't end up being very happy with how the shadow came out, so I will end up adding another clip where I sort of fix all the little things that sort of took away from the realism of this piece, and that will be right after this, so yeah. But here's where I better blend the shadow out, and even the other one a little bit, and then I kind of try to fix some of the weird marks that ended up on this part of the white, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. Thank you so much for watching.